Today, I'd like to talk about the destructive nature of being too careful. So, today I took a walk. I took a longer walk, an hour and a half, maybe, or up to an hour and a half or so, today in my own city in Covina. Um, and I started thinking about how people are very careful at times, how we think through things, double check on our own thoughts, and how this type of behavior can become rather destructive more than helpful, in especially in social settings. For example, for me, a while ago, I experienced a phase where I was bedridden and I had very limited social communications, uh, even in my own family setting as well. I didn't really communicate. And what happened was, over the course of having less and less social communications, I had developed this very careful nature of what would I say when people say things like so and so. So every scenario, I had to have a route prepared for it. And it was me being careful. I wanted to know what I would say, how I would sound saying them, and how that would sound to the other person. So basically, I was hyper careful to the point that it was very destructive. What it caused onto myself was I became very social phobic. Uh, and it stemmed from the fact that I was trying to be prepared for every single scenario possible. So basically, I was being too careful in the way that I would present myself. And I think it's a little bit of different essence that we need in social settings, because to communicate with other people, you have to give a part of your trust out. And if you communicate with people on the premise that you can't give your trust, you can't give any part of your trust out. And so that's why you're having these barriers, and you're trying to cover for every possible outcome, because you don't trust the setting, or you don't trust the people that are in the setting, or people who create the settings. It basically fails you because you're living in an emotional war zone of yourself. To not trust anybody is a very dangerous thing. For me, I feel like much more so than trusting a little bit more than you had planned for and ending up being a little bit hurt. More than being hurt in those situations, never trusting anybody is far more dangerous, in my own opinion, because to maneuver through a social setting, you have to be comfortable in that setting. And to be careful so much to the point that you're basically walking around saying, I don't trust any of you at all. It is more of it is more of an emotional burden to yourself rather than a resolution to social dangers that you might be saving yourself from. So this was the thought that I had. I was walking around. I would hear sounds caused by other people. I would hear the sounds of the cars running through. And every time I squinch, I kind of like cringe. I would think, okay, so there's a trust issue that I have. And for me to make sure that I feel safe every minute is far more dangerous than for me to just walk through the city, get more and more comfortable with the fact that sounds happen, interactions that you hadn't prepared for happens. It's just part of the nature of social settings. These thoughts led me to the concept that I'm trying to share today, that being too careful can often be far more dangerous than letting loose a little. Because to assume that the world you live in is full of danger and you can't trust any part of it, you might as well move to a place that you feel and know as a fact that it's safer, or you might as well train yourself to get used to the situation so that you know how to maneuver through it without cringing emotionally every second or every minute. So, I guess my question for everybody today is, when do you find yourself too careful? When do you find yourself being too careful to the point that the original intention is for you to make yourself more comfortable by allowing a certain knowledge about your surroundings, but that it ends up too calculated, too analyzed, that your emotional hold on yourself actually ends up hurting your situation. So that's kind of the topic for myself as well. Because I need to be aware sometimes when I take a walk outside just around my own city, I would start noticing sounds too much, and I would have that social phobic, I need to know what is happening every moment type of mentality that ends up hurting my situations more than allowing myself to live a little bit more freely. So I hope anybody who's listening to this can maybe pick on that topic for today and think about it, what your answers are. Maybe you're being too careful because of a trauma, and the reason why you're hurting from it isn't because you haven't prepared yourself for each scenario enough. It's that maybe because you're being too careful out of some type of attachment that you have towards your own story. And I know that's true for me as well. So that's all for today. I know I'm going to get too long. If I talk into the trauma part, my story's going to get too long. So I'm going to leave it at this for today. I hope you guys have a great Saturday. Today is May 16th, Saturday, 2020, in Los Angeles, here from Southern California. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Bye-bye.